Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. Today's book I read on my Kindle app and it's called Don't Let Her Stay and it's by Nicola Sanders and it has 4.5 stars out of 5 on Amazon with 47,323 reviews. I liked it, but I had my moments with it. So there's your front cover, very dark and mysterious. So the tagline is, when someone inside your house wants you dead and no one believes you. Let's get the blurb up and then I'll go into what I thought of this book. It seemed only 5 minutes ago that Richard went to the station to pick up Chloe, and now they were here. I was so excited. Finally I would meet my stepdaughter for the first time, and Chloe would meet her baby sister, Evie. Richard was over the moon that his daughter wanted to come back into his life. "You'll love her," he said, beaming. "She's very sweet. She just had a wobble about me marrying again, but that's over now." Well, she was going to find out that she had nothing to worry about. I had been fantasising non-stop about the two of us becoming close. I had visions of us baking together while Richard was at work, chatting about her boyfriend, her studies, what kind of job she'd like to do. Anyway, let's just say things haven't quite worked out that way. Whenever we're alone, Chloe makes it clear that she hates me, but in front of her father she's a perfect little angel. Richard says I'm not giving her a chance, but he doesn't see what I see. I don't trust Chloe, and I certainly won't leave her alone with Evie, because I know something isn't right with Chloe, and I will do everything possible to protect my family before it's too late. So, yeah. I've read very similar style books of the idea of, you let somebody into the house and they end up not being the person who you thought they were going to be. So the whole book is done from the point of view of Joanne. She was an estate agent before she married Richard, and that was how she met Richard. She met him when he was in a relationship with somebody else and they were looking for their ideal place, and then not long after that, Richard and that girlfriend broke up. Richard and Joanne got trapped in the basement of a house that they were looking at together, where she had a bit of a panic attack because she doesn't like basements and dark spaces. That was when they first started bonding, and then about 6 months after Richard's other relationship fell apart, he and Joanne started their relationship. Less than a year later they were married with a baby on the way, and it seems that Richard's daughter, adult daughter Chloe, was not happy at all with the timeline of that, and she was not happy at the idea of her father remarrying. You find out throughout the book that Chloe's mother died when Chloe was around 11 years old, and there's little droplets of that story all the way through, trying to work out what happened to Chloe's mother and that relationship, and the relationship between the mother and Richard and the mother and Chloe as the story goes on. And Chloe makes it very clear to Joanne that she does not like her. As I said, I've read other books in a very similar vein to this. The first one that came to mind was a book called The Other Woman, where the other woman was actually in reference to the partner's mother, a woman who was married to a man who was in the process of, throughout the book she was getting married to the guy, but the mother kept trying to push her away and things. I was just there throughout it going, do you really want to marry him if she comes with him? In this case, it's the fact that the daughter and Richard are estranged, Chloe, and Jo is there just hoping that one day she'll come around. In this book, Chloe celebrates her 21st birthday, and throughout the book I wanted to slap her repeatedly, and it was just like, grow up. You're basically 21 years old at this point, and you are behaving like a brat. The idea of brattiness in regards to Chloe is brought up quite a lot throughout the story. She seems very selfish, bratty, spoilt, and Richard just sees her through rose-tinted glasses. It's almost as if Richard knows what Chloe's capable of, but he refuses to acknowledge it. And so whenever Chloe does her sickly sweet routine with her father, and then behind his back is being absolutely horrible to Joanne, you're trying to understand the motivation there. And I was just there going through, is this going to be like other stories I've read in this vein where the baddie isn't really who you think it is, kind of a protecting kind of behaviour? Who does Joanne need to be protected from here? Is it Chloe? Is it Richard? Is it somebody else entirely that we don't know of yet? And so, yeah, it's a very interesting concept, but it's one of those things where it's just like, If people used their words, this story wouldn't happen. That's what it comes down to, lack of communication. And where I've read it from the husband's mother's point of view, where the mother of the husband is trying to destroy the relationship, that one you can almost excuse a little bit, because it comes from an age where the conversation wasn't actually happened. I'm treading murky waters here in regard to spoilers, but in case of the other woman, the mother wasn't actually the bad guy, even though on the surface it seemed like she was, because she was the one trying to drive the wedge between her son and the daughter-in-law. And then you later found out that the mother-in-law had an abusive relationship and was trying to stop it from happening again. In the case of this story, it flip-flops so much what you should believe and who you can trust. There is a bit of an unreliable narrator by hearing it through Joanne's point of view, because you're hearing everything in the first person, and so when you're hearing it, it's as if it's happening to you. When you hear all the things that Chloe is doing, and I'm just there thinking, Joanne, you need to nip this in the bud, because Chloe is acting like a brat and she needs calling out on it. Somebody needs to tell her that she is 21 years old and what she is doing is not okay. She is threatening Joanne with Photoshop pictures so that she can look after baby Evie. And it was just like, no, I would not let this woman anywhere near my child. I wouldn't let this woman anywhere near my baby. If this is how you're acting in front of me and your father, no. No matter what you do or what you do to threaten me, I would not leave you alone in a room with the baby. And so a lot of the times I felt like Joanne really needed to act like a mother, and even though she is essentially the stepmother, but she could see Richard was doing nothing about it. The one time that Richard actually goes on to Joanne's side, Joanne pushes it too far to the point where Richard flip-flops again. And so it's just like, so much of this story could be solved with communication from everybody. You know that Chloe is lying about things. You know that Richard is lying about things in regards to the history and what happened to Chloe's mother. So, yeah. When it gets to the point when Joanne is looking up stuff in the news and trying to find out and piece things together, and yeah, I'm just there going, this whole story wouldn't have happened if people actually had a real conversation with each other. The second that Chloe started acting out, she should have gone to Richard. Even when Joanne does have her small moments of conversations with Richard, and Richard is saying, oh, but you know, we've been estranged for this long because of when we got together. She's young, she'll figure it out. And it's just like, she's 20 years old. She's about to celebrate her 21st birthday, and you're treating her like she's 10 years old. And you can hear the baby voice that is put on for Chloe when she's around her father, and the almost hatred coming out of her voice when she is talking to Joanna privately, because it implies like the voice changes, and so I could hear it in my head. I've said before, I'm quite a visual reader, and so I can picture those images, but then it also means that I can hear it. I can hear the inclination in that tone of voice when it's described to me that way. And so, yeah, throughout all of it, I just want them all to sit down and actually have an actual conversation. Because as more things come out and you try to figure out whose side you're actually on and who is actually trying to drive the wedge in this relationship, it was a really good story, but it's also really frustrating at times because of the subject matter. It's one of those ones that at certain points you want to throw your book or your phone or whatever you're reading it on across the room, because you're just like, why? You want to shake people to wake them up a bit. By the end of it, you're frustrated with everybody because the entire family has been keeping secrets from Joanne. Ugh. It's a proper page turner because you really want to know what happens, and you want to know who is actually the baddie, and you want to know what happened back then. And when Joanna does find the articles about what happened to Chloe's mother, and she's just like, why did this version of events get retracted? What happened here? And so when she talks to a journalist about what he wrote about the case, and Joanne finds out things from the journalist about stuff that he wasn't able to write about but he knew about, and she gets more information about both Chloe and Richard from the journalist, and you're just like, I don't know what to believe, because at this point you have essentially an impartial person in the journalist sharing his thoughts on everything, and you're realising that what's happening in the house between Joanna, Chloe, Richard and baby Evie, all of it is unreliable. So if you like a good unreliable narrator story, this is a really good one to get your teeth into. It twists and turns so much to keep you on your toes. Yeah, just a proper page turner, really thriller-esque. And the fact that it starts off with a moment of Joanne leaving the house and leaving somebody on the inside, like tapping on the windows, and then it jumps back to finding out about how Joanna and Richard got together, and the whole time leading up to that very first prologue. It's frustrating, but it is so good. And just so twisty-turny, and it continues to twist and turn on you until that very last chapter. And I do love a book that really keeps you on edge like that, to the point I've read books where they twist on you with the final sentence of the book and you're just like, wait, what? And so you're still thinking about it after you've put the book down, and you're just there going, oh no. Everything that we have been told has turned around so much, to the point where you just don't know who or what to trust. And yeah, it's so good but so frustrating. Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders. When someone inside your house wants you dead and no one believes you. Yeah, I've got a singing lesson in about half an hour, so I'm going to go get some lemon and ginger tea, and my stomach is rumbling, so I obviously need to have something to eat before then as well. Thanks, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time with another video. Stay safe, everybody. Love you. Bye.